This is Continuum Drag, a weekly podcast where we revisit sci-fi, fantasy, and just plain weird shows.
This week, Planet of the Apes, episodes 13 and 14.
Look, if you must give these humans to the apes, why do you waste them? I mean, that ceremony, that man you killed.
I did not kill him. He was punished by the gods.
I don't think I like your gods.
You have no need to. You are not a human.
Fortunately.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast that has reached the end of the Planet of the Apes. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I'll tell you what's real. We're here celebrating with Maine lobster with butter and cold beer.
I forgot about that line.
That's we'll get to it, but that is apparently Pete, one of our main characters. That would be his favorite meal is Maine lobster. Don't give him anything but a Maine lobster. Maine lobster with butter.
They're the best.
And a cold beer.
Hey, I mean, can't argue with perfection.
I guess. What's your last meal?
Probably a bullet.
Jeez, dark. You know, my grandma used to say, she'd be like, "Oh, if I'm getting too old," she's like, "Just give me a gun with 2 bullets in case I miss." I thought, well, that's very nice to hear. Thank you.
Oh, Grandma.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's nice. What a delightful memory.
She has a great sense of humor that way.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan. Well, there's actually, I've got a lot to get into in my notes today.
Oh, do you?
I think I do. I think I've got a lot of stuff I'm going to talk about that we haven't had a chance to talk about so far. Some stuff to wrap up this series. And then, of course, the 2 episodes. There's a lot to get into. Before we get into the episodes, though, I did want to quickly go through. I was trying to find out more about the series, anything I could sort of dig up just the last minute here that I might have left off the table. I wanted to bring it all to the table, Jordan. Every little piece.
Every little piece. Let's do it.
So I found out about some unproduced episodes of the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a fanzine called Simian Scrolls.
You know what? That's really good. That's better than a Continuum Drag.
Simian Scrolls. I know. I liked it a lot.
I think next week, do we change it? This is now the Simian Scrolls?
We don't watch any more Planet of the Apes, but now it's Simian Scrolls.
Well, no, we only find things that have monkeys in it.
Just clips online.
Yeah, just clips online. That's what all the podcasts can be.
In issue 12 of Simian Scrolls, a gentleman named Mark Rogers had been, I think he's from the UK. Actually, I think the entire graphic or fanzine might have been from the UK. It seems to be a huge fan base over there. He had been in LA and gone to this bookstore, and someone was selling the show Bible for the show, like from the actual thing. Like the bookseller, I guess, had it in the back of the store, and this guy, I guess, had asked some questions, and he's like, "Oh, I got some scripts, and I have the show Bible." So this guy ended up getting a show Bible that sort of talked about the show Bible was from an early stage, so like some things are a little different. Like Burke was called Kovac, and Urko was called Urso, or Ursus. There we go.
Urko's better.
Urko, they did the right thing. And like Verdun had no family. Like there's all these like little pieces that hadn't been added to the series yet. In it there though, there's like, what is it? I think there's 5 episodes that were never produced, and literally all the other episodes that are in the series were in the show Bible. Those slightly changed. It was a little more adult. It was a little less aimed at kids. I think.
They really did know where they were going to go with this show, even though when you're watching this, it doesn't really seem like that.
Well, it seems like in the early stages, it was aimed at a little more of an audience for adults, and it kind of slipped a little more into that sort of children's area, like that middle ground, I guess. I guess maybe that's where they thought it should live. But here, I'll go through the 5 episodes that get produced, and you can tell me what you think of these episodes. The first was The Hostage. It was essentially a Patty Hearst story where human rebels kidnap a heiress ape, and she like joins their side.
That's pretty good.
I would have loved to watch that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
The Trek, they help a human tribe through the Forbidden Zone to find freedom in sort of the lands beyond the Forbidden Zone. Oh,
yeah,
that one,
okay.
That one could easily fit into the show we currently have, I think. Freedom Road, this one is great. It's all about an underground railroad they discover that's shipping humans off to Shangri-La. But the big twist of this end of the story is it's all a ploy by Urko to like capture humans.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's all right.
It was a cute one. The Mine, they're finally going to bring us to that mine they kept teasing the last few episodes. It was big mine, I guess, was going to, and like they're going to meet a guy who knew about like possibly an ancient civilization or something. I don't know. None of that really mattered. But I was just happy they're finally going to go to that mine. And finally, the trial. They were going to do a full courtroom drama.
You would have liked that, I think, more than me.
I would have been so happy.
You know, there's going to be one ape with a tie. He's like, I ain't your fancy city lawyer.
I ain't your Central City baboon.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's much better. Central City baboon.
But yeah, I was looking.
That's your name in our what's the new podcast called?
Simian Scrolls.
And the Simian Scrolls. You're the
I'm the Central City baboon.
Exactly.
Great. It's coming. It's all coming together.
Yeah, it's all coming together.
It's all coming together. All right. Well, those are some episodes that didn't get made. Let's get into the episodes that did get made. These final 2 episodes.
Yeah,
of,
13 and 14. This is it. This is the end.
Here is the IMDb summary for episode 13, The Liberator. When they are captured by a human community that provides human slaves to the apes, Verdun and Burke's survival is dependent on convincing their captors to rebel against the apes. This episode was not aired during the series' original run.
Is that right?
That was courtesy of Ape Freak.
Oh, Ape Freak. Thanks, Ape Freak. I didn't realize that.
He's wrong.
Is he wrong? Ape Freak. Ape Freak.
I think here's the thing. It didn't air in all markets. From what I've been reading, it's often thought of as the unaired episode, but apparently in some markets it did actually end up running. But I think it was so close to the end of the series, it was preempted for other places, and it sort of became a lost episode that is and isn't lost. So
do we give that to Ape Freak or no?
He is forgivable. He's given us so much.
That's true. He has given us so much.
It's absolutely. All right. This starts off in this human village who give gorillas from the mine like human servants. They basically every summer during the summer months they have to give like 5 humans every second month or something. So there's something like that. And part of how it works is they go out and they capture like field humans, meadow humans, they call them, which I guess are just like roving humans.
Well, that was at first you kind of find that out maybe 10 or 15 minutes in the episode, because at first I was thinking, how is this population not just dwindling? Like, because they're losing people so quick. But yes, they very explicitly say they go out hunting for these people. So do you think now there's just small groups of people that haven't formed larger communities, or do you think there's just like wild humans running around? Because I like the idea of like just wild humans just flinging poo.
I think it might be somewhere between those two things. I feel like this episode and wherever this mine is clearly really we're getting into the fringes. We're probably getting close to the forbidden zone, because it did feel like we are far from monkey control,
right?
Ape control. Monkey
Control is the place that we do the recording for the podcast.
Simian Scrolls?
Yeah. It's
coming from Monkey Control.
Exactly. This is really good.
You love this idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, they capture these, what they call meadow humans, and hand them over. And when they're short, they have to draw lots amongst their own people, and those people sort of fill in the ranks of the 5. That's sort of how it works. We're kind of seeing this happen. They've got most of these meadow people, but they got one guy who has to come from the city, a man named Klim, a real local, and he's not into it. And when it comes his time to leave with the gorillas,
he bolts.
He makes a run for it.
Yeah. So they're basically like kind of tied up, and they don't do a great job, but he breaks in terms of tying him up. He breaks away. He's like, I'm out of here. And the apes are like, fine, we'll just go kill him. We love hunting and killing humans.
Well, yeah, like, we'll go get him.
Yeah. So he runs away. And of course, I like there's a scene here where we just have Pete, Alan, and Galen who are just kind of walking down like a dusty road chatting. And I wrote, wouldn't it be great if there was a whole episode where that's all it was? Like they just kept walking down the road. You kept thinking something was going to happen, but it's just a really good conversational episode where they're just chatting and you're learning stuff about the history and everything. I was like, what a fun episode that would be. But of course, we have this episode. So what's his name? Klim? Klim is running down. He bumps into these guys. They are able to hide him. I don't know why he couldn't hide, because all they do is hide behind a rock, and that was their great advice. And so he's now, for a very short time, with them. They're basically like, what happens? And he lies to them, doesn't he? He tells them...
Yeah, he comes out of the gate, he's just like, oh, they're hunting me for sport. You know how it is. He's like, but don't worry, like when we get back to my village, you're going to be heroes for saving me.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I couldn't tell if he was lying or stupid. It was hard for me to tell.
I think it had a little bit to do with the guy's performance.
I did like, though, this is just a small line that comes up when they're hiding there. Galen is which is odd, because usually he's the one who's afraid of everything, but they're talking about like, how do we save this guy? What do we do with these gorillas? And Burke doesn't want to go out and do anything about it just yet. He also waits for the moment to be right. And Burke tells Galen he wants to teach him about the value of creative cowardice.
That's right. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I was like, creative cowardice. I like it.
Yeah,
Great line.
yeah.
Kudos to you, writer.
Yeah, well done. So basically, what we find out very quickly is that this guy has decided at the spur of the moment, after being saved by Pete and Alan, that he's going to take these two guys to replace him. And in his mind, the slate's clear now.
All will be forgiven. Yeah, like they bump in. They go back to the village. They meet the village people. All of them are there. The firemen, the construction worker. But he's like,
Yep.
hey, I got you these two guys. Grab them. And then like the humans jump on Verdun and Galen, and he's like, or not Galen, but Burke. And Clem's just like, well, I did it. I helped you guys, so all's forgiven.
Yeah, and they're all like, but they're happy to take.
Yeah, they haul them off to a cage, and Clem's hauled off to the temple.
Yeah.
And Galen follows suit because he's like, I gotta go negotiate with the leader of this clan to get these two jumps out. Like I always do. Every episode, I gotta go negotiate with somebody.
So we see this temple, which looks pretty good.
Yeah, how would you describe it?
It looked like kind of a cross between like an Aztec temple and it's maybe almost like an Egyptian thing, the way they had like kind of block stones. Would you think that's a good way to describe it?
Why is it in California?
That I don't know.
It looked
You know
great,
what's actually funny?
but I was very confused.
I actually never even thought about it. I guess I was so engrossed in the story.
It was one of their better matte paintings.
Yeah. Oh no, I thought so too. It looked and I've said this before. I'm a big fan of those old matte paintings. I like the world. I prefer it to the CGI stuff. I just think I really like the look of them. But so what he comes in, Galen is in this crowd, and what we see is sort of a kind of scene you've seen before and things where it's like it looks like it's gonna be some sort of ritual, and there's a guy with a weird kind of mask on. He's kind of a King or the Wicker People sort of thing.
The mask is like a stone carved like orangutan mask he's wearing.
Yeah, and it's large, and it like kind of comes down to his chest, and
the whole hood.
Yeah, and so the guy Clem is being tied to like a wagon, and the guy basically goes like he's sinned against the gods, and will let the gods decide what to do with him, and almost immediately, I don't even think he gets the prayer out. Almost immediately, the guy's like, ugh, and he's dead.
Yeah, he just drops dead on his own.
And I actually thought like that's pretty interesting. Like that's a pretty good setup for an episode. Now I'm gonna say right now, I don't think they followed through enough on this plot line, which I thought was the most interesting part, and I thought they focused way too much on everything else. But that's the basic setup, where you have this idea that maybe he did pray to the gods, and maybe the gods did kill this guy.
Yeah, they set up a good mystery, a good kickoff mystery.
Yeah, and I thought that was pretty good. So, and also Galen is blown away. Galen's like, "What did I just see?"
Oh well, Galen's acting throughout this episode is top notch. But like when he sees that man come out in that wooden orangutan mask, Galen like pulls a face that I'm shocked he could pull in that mask, but just like a face of like he's aghast that someone would like carve something, and like fascinated, and like there's so much emotion in that mask. I was like, how is Roddy McDowell doing this?
Yeah, he's very, very good. So anyways, he goes back to Alan and
I have one more quick question.
oh,
for
sorry.
you. I'm surprised you didn't complain about all the bells and drums at the temple.
No, but it was it wasn't as incessant as before, and they weren't trying to brainwash me.
Fair enough. It was the brainwashing you were objecting
That
to.
was what I was saying. But anyway, Galen goes back to Alan and Pete, and he basically says to them, like, "You wouldn't believe what happened. I can't explain this."
Yeah.
And they're sort of like, I don't know.
They will make fun of God at least 3 times in this episode.
Yeah, they're men of science.
They are very they're not. They don't care about these people's beliefs. Their beliefs are dumb to them.
But I'll say this is pretty consistent though with them so far. Like they've always treated any sort of things they've come across as kind of silly and stupid.
Yeah, they're
a little bit patronizing.
A little patronizing. That's absolutely correct. I do like it because they're in this cage. Galen's talking to them. A young woman comes out to deliver them food, and
I love this.
They're like, hey, maybe we can like win her over. They're already planning like they've been captured so many times. They kind of have a plan of going in. They're like,
yeah.
And Burke's like, I got this. Let me handle this one. So she comes in and he starts like flirting it up.
And did you get the line he said?
I did, but you want to go? You want to do it?
He says, well, I like that they give Pete, because Pete's clearly like the ladies' man.
Yeah.
As we've seen in the flashback in another episode. He's the ladies' man here. So he's using all his line. And he says to Alan, we could sure use an ally. You know what Pocahontas did for John Smith.
Oh my God, that was such a bad.
I was like, oh, no, Pete, no.
Well, I thought you were going to say the line he says to her.
What does he say right after that?
Well, when she comes in to deliver the food, and he like
Oh, I know what it is. Yeah,
leans over against the cage, and he's just like, "Hey, where I come from, mothers used to warn their daughters about me." And you can actually see Verdun in the shot rolling his eyes.
He throws up a little bit in his mouth, and he has a whole load of. I actually feel bad for the actor. A whole lot of kind of cringy sort of pickup lines, and I don't know if the writers were trying to have him be kind of cheesy, or if he was actually kind of a suave guy in 19.
I actually think,
something.
because I think if you watch, I feel like the writers wrote them, and I don't think they maybe knew what they were going to do with them. But I think if you watch Verdun's reactions, because he literally is like pulling faces, like
Right.
this guy, like this is so dumb. Like I think both those actors are like, listen, how are we going to pull this off? He's like, listen, I'm going to lean into it like a real cheese fest, and you react like listen to this guy. I felt like the two of them were like, not the greatest lines, but we can deliver something here.
But it doesn't work anyways because she's only got eyes for another guy who shows up with real good arms.
Yes, the leader's son. He's her name is Talia. His name is Miro.
Amiro, yeah.
And they don't know how to kiss.
Yeah, it happens really fast, and it's all intensity and no strategy.
They put their two faces against each other. Not even necessarily their lips, but they kind of just mash them together as hard as they can.
Yeah.
I will say that maybe wasn't the strongest point, but this kid playing Miro, he is like dialing it up to 11. He's giving this role his all. Like
He just watched Shatner and went, you know what? That's how you deliver a line.
yeah, he's leaning in. You know what? And I liked it. I give him props. Like he was giving the role so much. Like he was just like, this is my break, and I'm going to leave everything out there on the field.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's not going to work. She's hooking up with Miro, son of the leader. He's got to go to town though, because he's got to go get 3 more Meadow people. Or we got 2 guys now. We need 3 more. Let's get this underway.
Well, I'll say one thing right after this, and it's not important to anything, but if you're keeping score at home, both Pete and Alan take their shirts off again as they chop wood. Because it's almost a requisite for the show that they take their shirts off.
Yeah, they're training them for the mines. They got to go take their shirts off. And Galen goes in and has a conversation with the leader. His name's Brun, something like that.
Yep.
Brun.
Either one.
And it's kind of interesting because they kind of get into sort of why. Because Galen's just like, I'm an ape. You have to listen to me. Let my servants go.
And he's like, no.
No way. And we kind of get a little history here. So wherever they are in the world, apes have been coming in there all the time and taking human slaves back to their mines. And sometime years ago, there was a rebellion. So there has been a rebellion. Mm-hmm. And they came to a compromise in that if this village can just provide 5 people twice a year, they don't care where they come from, then they won't
interfere. They won't interfere with anything, yeah.
So they have the right to take any alien human who wanders into their land as a prisoner to hand over to the mines. So Galen has no legal standing, which is kind of a first that Galen would have no legal standing over a human. So it's
basically it's because they have come to a legal agreement, and they're saying, he's like, you have to listen to I'm an ape, and he goes, I don't care, like that's not the law. That's basically what keeps coming down. He's just someone who knows the law, and he's like, no, I got it here in writing. It doesn't matter what you say.
Yeah, he's not disrespectful, but he's like, you have no sway here.
Yeah.
And, Galen's like, all right, well, then I'll just go over at night and break them out of a cage.
Which does not go well.
It immediately fails. Galen ends up getting locked in his own little hut now, and they're going to turn him over to the gorillas too when they show up. So things are going pretty badly. Miro returns. He's only caught one Meadow Man. It sounds like the Meadow Men are getting smarter. They're hiding. They're not catching as many people as they used to. And even this one Meadow Man has a knife hidden on him, so he like slices open Miro's arm, which it's supposed to be a deep cut. That's
I know it doesn't look great,
but you don't get to see it.
You see, you actually in one shot near when he sits down and leans against the cage, you do see a little bit of the fake blood, but it doesn't look great. It looks like he was finger painted.
It doesn't quite sell, but it gives the opportunity for Verdun to help and teach them about tourniquets. I mean, they kind of know something about tourniquets, but they don't know to like loosen them so that doesn't like go gangrene.
Yeah, it's one of those things where what we learn is that people and apes in this world they
got halfway there.
They get halfway there and they go, this is not working.
Oh, it's too hard.
Yeah,
but yeah, he saves them. We get a little more like the nuance of the society. Like Miro's going to take over for his father as the leader at some point and learn the ways of the gods and why people die when they enter the temple. But Miro's like so upset because he's like, I'm never going to be the leader. And you know why, Mira? You know why, Talia? She's like, you'll get married one day. And it kind of all comes out now that Talia's drawn the lot So he's so obsessed with getting more meadow people because if he doesn't fill those 3, he
Yeah.
loses his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a nice turn. Like it was kind of gave everyone more stakes.
It does though have a thing that a lot of these episodes have had, and I think more so as we've gone on, which is, for better or worse, they love setting up a lot of little stakes. Every character has like their little thing to varying degrees of success. Again, sort of like they don't just want to have a straight plot. It's like the straight plot is this, but then there's a little B plot, and there's a C plot, and there's a D plot, and an E plot. They may not all come together in the end, but there's a lot to keep track of.
Overall, I think I've liked that they have so many little plots. I think for me, at least, it kept my attention more. You're right that they don't always land. You're not wrong there. Some of them are not as well executed as others. Miro, there's even a scene where Miro begs his dad to let him take Talia's place. He's really going for this actor. I said it already, but like in this scene, he's begging his father to just like swap out. He cries a single tear down his cheek.
I know. I saw that. It was pretty good.
I was just like, this guy is killing it in this role. It's not the role you're going to get noticed for, but if anyone is going to get noticed, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go anywhere because he's like, no one's above the law, son. Like, this is the way it is. So Miro basically like, that's it. We're done here. I'm breaking those humans out. I'm getting Galen out. I'm going to give them Talia and tell them all just to get out of here. He's like, I'm breaking the rules. Screw the gods.
Yeah.
Like, I'm done with this.
And we should note, he doesn't tell Talia this is the plan. His plan is, I love her so much, I'm going to get her out of this society and out of this thing. But she's going to go with these fugitives, and I'm not telling her. And she is not into it.
No. She was fine with her lot in life.
Yeah.
She was happy. She was like, you know what? Just how it worked out. But basically, I think Burke has to put his hand over her mouth, and they're trying to drag her away.
They kind of manhandle her, and it's like, oh,
it's a little awkward.
Yeah.
But they do overhear that, the humans have already discovered the prisoners have escaped. They've blocked all the roads kind of, I guess, out of the valley or whatever.
So they only really have one place they can hide.
Yeah, they're like, I guess we'll go to the temple and we'll hide in there. And Talia's like, yeah, sounds good. I want to die. Like and they're like, no, you won't die there. She's like, no, we're all gonna die, and I welcome it.
So I guess the next thing is they go to the temple, and I think it's Alan who's the first one who goes across, right? No, it's Pete. Pete goes forward
to prove to everyone there's nothing to be afraid of.
Guys, there's nothing to be afraid of.
You superstitious little jerks.
I'm going to the back door. He starts walking through the back door, walks by what looks like a bubbling little cauldron puddle beside him, takes no notice as a scientist, and as soon as he walks by it, boom, he's knocked out and he's on the ground, and Alan has to run by and kind of drag him, and they sort of wake Pete up, and Pete's just out. Like, he just was knocked out. And what they realize really quick is, I think there's gas coming out of this place.
Yeah, there's like gas leaking out of the ground around this temple.
But thankfully, also right by it is a wonderful stash of
Thankfully,
charcoal.
All the shots are framed with a big pile of charcoal in the foreground.
Yeah. So Alan, being the smart aleck that he is, knows that charcoal filters a lot of fumes. So he makes sort of a makeshift little
gas mask for everybody.
I like by the way, they would rather risk what is pretty much certain death than just trying to find another hiding spot. But anyway, the point is they put
science.
They put the little masks on and they're like, let's chance it. And it works well enough that they can get into.
They get past the first door. Once they get inside, there's no poison gas inside. They find out because Galen takes his mask off and he's like, "No, I can smell it. There's none here."
And here's a weird thing, and I'll see what you think about it. So as soon as they get into the temple, they realize they can breathe again. And what they do realize is the temple essentially sits on something where gas is coming.
Some sort of pocket of
some pocket. And what they find is when they walk in, they see the
carved mask,
and they pull it up and they go, "Oh, look, this is the mask. There must be something to this." And when they look inside of it, what I thought was funny is it's not that the mask was doing anything; it's that inside the mask, the guy was wearing like a gas mask, which looked like it was from like the 1940s.
Yeah, it's kind of like an old military gas mask or something.
And they're basically like, he must have just found this. But there was so many weird questions about that at that point. I was like, wait a minute. So they had this temple, and he just happened to find this thing, and at first he got knocked out, but then he was like, no, I'll wear this mask, and then I'll go in, then I'll create a religion around. Like, it just seemed like, where are we going?
I think this is quite ancient, because he even refers to it as a relic of the gods. I feel like maybe this community's been around for a while, and this has maybe been just like, where all this came from has been lost. Like, that's how I felt about it. I'm just like, this is just from so long ago, no one knows where these customs started or how they did.
Right. The point being, though, the reason the guy died and the reason that the priest, we'll call him, leader, doesn't die is because he's wearing a gas mask.
Yeah, because there's gas masks, they can get past this poison.
But they take it up a notch real quick because they keep walking through.
New
plot, because that's what you want with 10 minutes left in the episode, is they keep walking and they come to an interesting room. And what how would you describe what the room kind of looks like?
What I like is they're walking down the thing, and Galen's like, oh, this he can smell it. He's like, this one passageway has a back way out. I can smell the fresh air. And they're like, but look, there's a door over here. And Verdun's like, I want to go look at it. And you see Pete, and he's just like, he like literally throws his hands up. He's like,
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding me. I don't know. There's some fun back and forth.
Yeah, no, I mean, and we've said it before, and through this series, one of the best things is the two actors who are playing our two leads, and obviously Galen, they're all really good. And they make sometimes kind of silly material a lot better.
Yeah, but it's kind of just a fun moment. But yeah, they go in this room. They've got, the leader has a boiling cauldron of the poisonous gas, which he's got venting up to kind of. He's made a makeshift vent into like ceramic jars. Like he's filling ceramic jars full of poison gas.
Yeah. I don't know if you can do that, but that's what he's doing.
I mean, I don't know. You can't. So,
and what he's basically doing is really quick. You get this like kind of anti-war message that comes at the really end. He's basically making.
Well, he shows up right then.
Yeah, he's
in
making
that
chemical bombs.
Yeah, he's making this because it seems like he wants to get along with the apes, and that's what he says the lie is. But he wants rebellion more than anybody. He basically has been filling these up. He's planning an ape genocide. He intends to go to the mines, gas them there, and then when he's done there, he's going to travel the world just killing apes. And yeah, the anti-war message is like, I know you like. They're like, we're pro-rebellion, but we're not pro like massacre. Like that's kind of it's a tough to nail where Burke and Verdun fall, but like that's too far for them.
But it doesn't matter because Galen just takes a stick and bops him on the head, knocks him out.
Galen is not happy to hear he's going to kill all the apes in the world. He bops him on the head, and then he walks over to the cauldron and kicks the fire over and basically lights the room on fire. And they're like, well, it's full of gas. We need to leave.
Yeah. So no decision needed. And they kind of get out. I think they have like an argument about violence. It's not it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you can imagine.
They leave the temple. There is, for this show, I would say the least impressive explosion they've had so far.
I was so sad because they have that back way out. So what you see is they exit through a cave, and the leader Brun, he runs back in and dies in the explosion, just so we can get rid of him, I guess. But yeah, I was just like, are they going to blow up that sweet, sweet temple?
Yeah.
And it's just a sound effect and like a little smoke coming. They never cut back. It's just like, boom.
It doesn't look good.
And I was like, you guys, blow up that temple.
And then that's kind of the episode. Like we have the usual. What sort of happens at the end? Because that was really the end of it.
I mean, basically what happens is like they wrap up. There's a funeral happening for Brun. Miro's taking his place as the leader, and he's basically telling Verdun and Burke like he's going to follow their advice. He's going to start a human rebellion against the apes in the mine. He's going to go make peace with the meadow people and start like building this rebellion together, which is probably the first time they've like actively incited a rebellion, I think. But it was an interesting lead off if the show had gotten a little more serialized. But yeah, that sort of wraps up there. It's kind of like they've changed the cultural force in this town, basically.
And that's that.
Episode
14.
Sure, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Going. Episode 14, Up Above the World So High.
I think this is the only episode that's not like the something. It doesn't have the definite articles.
There's only one other one.
What's that?
I can't remember what it was called, but early on there was also one that kind of had a non-structure of the nemesis,
right.
There's only, but there have been very few.
Mm-hmm.
Laura, listen. What you have invented is a kind of a glider, which is a remarkable achievement, but it's a dead end. Where do you go with it? Up into the sky. For what? Now put that same thought and energy into something that can be useful for you.
Yeah, invent a new kind of plow or something.
I will fly. I will do what no human being...
Trying to steal my idea so you can take the credit.
Come on, Lurik. We're not trying to steal anything. We're trying to help you.
Listen, Lurik, if we worked on your glider, taught you safety techniques, got you up there soaring like an eagle, we'd only be setting you up as a target. Some gorilla would see you and pow.
I don't care.
Unaware that a chimpanzee scientist plans to use a human prisoner's flying machine for her own deadly purpose, Verdun, Burke, and Galen help the man to build a hang glider. This was the final episode of the series, and that was courtesy
Ape Freak.
Wah, wah, wah. Ape Freak.
Ape Freak. Look, we love him. We know we love Ape Freak. He really gives away everything though. In that, I mean, that's it. That's the episode.
It's a good summary of the episode, that's for sure.
I think that's too much given away. There's no
you want,
tease there.
You want the tease.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't know her plan, though. Her plan's the big reveal.
That's true. That's true.
This one opens up. This must have been shot probably around the time they shot the shark episode.
Yeah. They're on the same coast again.
They're basically on the cliff shores by the ocean again.
Wouldn't it be funny if in the background you could see the people from the last episode still trying to get them? Like, still trying to, like, throw stuff at them?
Trying to get those sharks?
Yeah.
I like that Galen, it starts with Galen, like, gathering red fruit off of trees. And I really wanted them to name more future fruit.
I agree with you. I thought the same thing.
I thought because it's a loving shot of him picking fruit. I'm like, oh, we're going to get a name.
Weirdly, on that note, one of the little fan fictions I read, there was someone and they really talked about the fruit, and they had this whole theory about how there was some sort of nuclear apocalypse, and at that point all the fruit melded into one fruit, so there's only one type of fruit in the world, and the whole thing was about that. And I was like, wow, they've really thought about this fruit. And like thousands of words about this, and they had named it. I think it might be the fruit we saw in the very first episode.
Okay, interesting.
But it was their theory was that's the only fruit in the
only
world.
fruit that's currently available.
Yeah.
Well,
it's an apple, it's a banana, it's an orange, it's a kumquat.
That one thing just really stuck with them.
Yeah, exactly.
They needed to get into it.
Anyway, sorry, I digress.
No, it's fine. He's picking these fruits, and when he looks up, what's flying above him but a flying reptile.
Yeah, he thinks it's a flying reptile, and what it is, it's a guy in a glider.
And a hang glider, yeah. Some man flying over. He calls Verdun and Burke over, and they like make fun of him because he's like, "Oh, Galen, it's not a flying lizard.
Yeah, you idiot.
You dummy." Of course, some gorilla guards who happen to be horseback riding by also get a look at him, and this man kind of like he's not too bad. The gliding's going okay, but he kind of like
it's an early test.
He loses it and crashes
in a tree.
And there's in a tree, and there's a bit of a race to like save this man before the gorilla gets to it. The gorilla guards get to him.
Alan and Pete get to him first, kind of save him.
Yep.
But what I like is they almost immediately start criticizing him.
Well, that's it. They go back to his workshop, and his name is Lurik.
Lurik, okay.
Lurik, the inventor, and yeah, he's obsessed with flying. That's all he wants to do. But like, all Pete and Burke do. Pete and Burke, that's the same person. Verdun and Burke.
Yeah.
Pete and Alan.
Pete and Alan. You always go with their last name. I always go with their first name. I'm closer friends with them, I think.
That's why. That's why. You guys are tight. But yeah, they get into criticizing his design, why he would ever want to fly.
Yeah.
Like he's so dumb.
It seemed like I know why. There's a reason why. They're kind of seeding a little bit for later, building a better version of this. But it is kind of funny. I'm like, you guys just met a guy. He's, to be fair, come up with an incredible invention.
Oh, he's way ahead of his time.
Way ahead of his time. And they're just like, not very good. You suck.
You should quit.
Like, did you see what we came in? A spaceship. Way better. It's like, okay, calm down.
Oh, you made a hang glider, eh? You didn't even do it right.
I know. Anyway, so
they won't even share their knowledge.
Like, yeah, they're they don't share knowledge as if their time travel is going in the past and they don't want to change things. But anyway, they're being aggressive with them. And what I like about this guy though, he just gives it back. He's basically like, I don't care. I'm the best. I'm going to be famous. That's his thing.
You're just saying that because you want to take my ideas. Fuck you.
Yeah. He's like, no, I'm going to be the guy, the glider guy. Everyone's going to know me.
They end up kind of negotiating a compromise. Like, so the guy doesn't get caught by girls in the future. They're going to move his workshop to these old ruins nearby.
And let me just make a weird side note. I'm pretty sure, for whatever reason, in this episode, there's something funny with Galen's hands, and they're much hairier than in any other episode. Because I kept noticing his hands, and they were super hairy. And what I think is, there was some sort of costume issue and they just stuck someone else's like gloves on him. But it was driving me crazy the whole episode. I'm like, his hands have never been that hairy before. They were like flowing in the wind. Anyway.
That is so funny. I did not even notice at all.
You know, it's a good episode when I'm noticing the hair level on hands.
Yeah, they just basically negotiate. They're going to move him to these old ruins because the apes are superstitious about it. And just before they start moving his stuff, there's this apropos to nothing. He's just like, oh, also, look what I found on the ground. A piece of glass.
Yeah.
Lightning struck went from where lightning struck the sand.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, I hope that becomes something, which it does. But it's like, what a weird line.
Well, it's funny too because he's just like, I have no interest in it. It is not flying.
Yeah, I have no interest in it. I will leave it over here. Thus, yeah.
And Burke's like, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna polish it up. I'm gonna blow Galen's mind.
Yeah, he actually says it. Like, I'm gonna blow his mind with making a magnifying glass. And we cut to what I wrote in my notes. I bet you Luke is loving this. It's a boring bureaucratic meeting.
Well, before we get there, I'm just going to cut to one last thing because as they're moving him across to this to his new workshop, you see basically Verdun and Burke are there. They almost got the last loads. Like, well, Galen and Lurik should be here any minute, and like Galen runs in and he's like, "You guys, you'll never guess what happened. they captured Lorik while I was in my hiding place.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they did it off camera.
It all happened off
That's right,
camera.
yeah.
And Galen's is like, I was there too, but I was hiding.
Yeah, that's right.
It was just a weird way of like having him captured, like just not.
That's
seen.
right, yeah.
But yes, this leads us into a high council meeting where, this is a first. Zaius and Urko are in agreement about what to do with this guy who wants to build a flying machine.
Yeah.
Kill him.
Kill him.
They're both just like, yeah.
I think what happened is Zaius, after, well, let's say it's been about, what do you think? How long do you think this show has taken place? 6 months?
Sure.
6 months. I think after a while, I was like, you know what? None of my experiments are working very well. I think Urko's right. I think we just kill him.
No, let's kill this guy.
You just kill him.
But there's another scientist there, Carcia, and she interrupts. Zaius, if I might have permission to speak, I'm just a female scientist.
Yeah.
At first, I thought this was a weird like gender thing at the time, but as we'll come to learn, this is more to do with like her character.
Yes.
And she's playing a role in order to put herself in a position, so she subjugates herself.
Yes.
To build herself.
Yes.
But initially, I was just like, "Whoa, that's weird."
Yeah, and her basically her strategy is, I'm gonna work with this guy, and I'm gonna blow your guys' minds. No beatings. I'm not gonna beat him up. We're just gonna get him to do his work. And they're all like, all right, we'll allow it.
Well, she's like, I think we should look into flying machines because I've heard our ancestors used to fly. And Zaius says, already he's like, oh, an experiment?
Yeah, he loves it. He loves experiments and he loves things from the past. So he's on board, and you just can see the eye rolling from Urko.
Well, I believe Urko, even in the middle of it, just exasperatedly shouts, "Why bother?"
He's the best. He's such a great character.
And she kind of pushes back on him by saying, if our ancestors liked flying, it must not have been useless. And he's just like, well, you got me there.
Yeah, good point.
And that's the last we'll see of either of them in this episode.
Yeah, that's right. I know
disappointingly.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the end. But so what we get is she has a very light interrogation kind of this guy, but really it is a motivating him to finish this hang glider.
She takes her fancy card out to the Gorilla garrison where she's imprisoned. She throws the Gorilla leader or commander out of his chambers because she's like a higher level scientist, and she's like, yeah, I want to know how you fly. I'm going to give you a sweet workshop. Make a new flying machine. I want you to make a flying machine. Let's work together. And now I missed something here, I think, in my own inability to pay attention. Galen kind of shows up and starts flirting with her. What is that bridge? Was something missing there? No, what it was is when Lork's captured, they're like, uh-oh, they didn't shoot him on the spot. Their assumption is they're going to execute him. They're going to do a big public execution for him. They basically imagine what could be happening to him. So they go to this garrison, and same thing they always do. Like Galen puts on who does he pretend to be here? He's an archaeologist named I don't know if I've written down.
The point
Protus.
He loves being characters.
Oh, I didn't get into the last episode, but there was like 3 great human guard names in that episode.
Oh, what were they?
Hold on, let me go back real quick and find them. They said them out loud. I'm like, these names are the best.
Nothing's better than my favorite, which was Jason.
Ort, Lurk, and Tag.
Oh, those are pretty good.
Anyway, great names on the show.
Yeah.
And yeah, he shows up. He's like, I'm a scientist. You're a scientist. He starts really flattering her intelligence, and she's just like, you don't have to flatter me, but I do like it, so keep it coming.
Yeah, and she starts flirting hard, and Galen's pretty reciprocal to it.
Yeah, Galen's having a nice time. Like, she's a very attractive ape, unquestionably.
It's smart.
She's interested in flying. She doesn't want to be a human. She seems to have all the things that like Galen would be attracted to: inquisitive, nice to people. What more could you want? But
she probably reminds him of his ex-girlfriend, that doctor.
I mean, fair enough. But, they're there because they're worried he's going to get executed, or as Verdun and Burke keep saying, he's going to die in crashing his terrible aircraft. They just keep judging him over.
Yeah.
So they kind of realize, all right, he's got a deadline to make this glider. He's either going to fail and get executed or make a shitty one and die. We're going to have to make him a real hang glider and somehow swap it out so that he doesn't die.
And that is Q4 building montage.
Yes, a very fun competing glider montage.
Yeah. And it ends with, and so what do you have is Pete and Alan making one, and what's this guy's name? Lurk making one.
Lurk.
excuse me, not Lurk, Lurik making one, and at the very end, Galen has a thing. He's like,
a fun little vignette.
he's like, I glued my fingers together.
Well, they got boiling glue, and he tastes it,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh, it's just tray sap, delicious." And then it cuts back to him, and his fingers are stuck together.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh."
Yeah.
So that was like the funniest, weirdest side in any of these
I know.
episodes.
But what we get is that Pete and Alan, being the classic kind of jerk guys they are, want to test out their.
Yeah, they've built a glider.
Yeah.
Time for test flight.
And so they're like, well, we're not going to fly it. Galen, you're the one who's terrified of this idea. You're going to fly.
Well, their reasoning's okay though. Like if they see a human, a real season, they'll get shot. So it's only up to Galen.
And we get some pretty funny shots of him flying. But did you notice the one thing about it, the flying?
What's that?
It's the first time we've really seen his feet.
Oh, I've seen those shots before.
Under the bottom of his feet?
Those weird shoes he's wearing.
Really weird.
Yeah. I want to say though, because while they're trying to convince him to fly, because he really doesn't want to, Brooke says to him, "Galen, it's you, or it's alas, poor Lorik."
Oh, I didn't even catch that
But
line.
the best part is as he says it, Verdun again is in the shot behind him, literally like making a face like it's the worst pun he's ever
I have to go
heard.
back and watch that.
Like the last two episodes, the two of them are like, they clearly like got scripts were like, some of these lines are ridiculous. I'm going to stand in the background and roll my eyes at them when you say them.
That's good.
But it's a great flying sequence. Do you think they flew? It looks like they're flying an actual glider.
It did, yeah. I mean, some of the scenes clearly are.
Some of them are clearly like
they're on
close-ups or like
but no, it does look like
the wide shots.
they put someone in a costume and had them
Jump
hang
off a
glide.
cliff.
At least for a few shots, yeah, they did.
Absolutely. And it's very funny because Galen doesn't want to do it, but as soon as he's up in the air, he must yell woohoo like 5 times.
He does, yeah.
He just keeps yelling. He loves
So
it.
what we've learned is apes just inherently, or all species, if they're excited, they will yell yoo-hoo and woohoo, excuse me. And if they're riding a horse, what did he do last time?
Yahoo.
He said yeehaw.
Yeah, there we go.
That's
Yeehaw.
it's just natural.
It's just natural.
Yeah.
It's just the way we're all born.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, though, we need some sort of contrived hang up to cause some problems here. And they thought they had more time to get their new glider over to Lurik, but Lurik's finished his early.
Yeah.
And they can't let him fly because he'll die because they don't trust his design. He flew one already. Like,
I know.
His design was fine.
It's a weird thing that
They've arbitrarily decided.
they've arbitrarily like he sucks. And he doesn't. There's no indication he sucks.
We've seen him
Yeah.
fly a glider.
I know. It's just for whatever reason. I think they just needed them to be doing something.
Yeah.
And without that, there's no point to them in the episode. So we would just be watching another person build a thing. So anyway,
But they basically send Galen back because he's got to like sabotage it so they have more time.
he's got the expander.
So he shows up. He's got an expander. It's the glass that Burke's carved into a magnifying glass.
Yeah,
for him.
he's calling the magnifying glass an expander.
An expander. And he's showing it off to them. Like he's flirting with his new girlfriend, showing off to Lurik. He distracts them. He's like, "Hey, let's look at something over across the room." And he like kind of sets up the magnifying glass so it does that burn an ant thing and like lights the whole glider on fire and essentially like buys them more time by burning down this poor man's
He also
glider.
doesn't get called on it because she finds the magnifying glass right away and is basically like,
Oh yeah, she puts her hand under it and her skin burns.
and she gets burnt, and she doesn't like you sabotage. She's like, "Hey, I think we found another use for your thing."
She's just like, "Oh, it got hot." And he's like, "I had no idea. You discovered it." Like he just flatters her. He like flatters her intelligence. I will note one thing, and this was in the IMDb trivia. Or not trivia, maybe the goofs. So this is a magnifying glass. Burke has invented the magnifying glass for Galen. Wanda the ape was wearing glasses.
Oh right, yeah.
So this is when I read that I'm like, "Oh, you're right. It makes no sense. They know like there was
Yeah,
an
they
ape wearing
know.
glasses. They should know all about this."
Yeah, you're right.
Take that, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
There's a real goof for you.
But anyways, they burn the stuff, and this is at the point where we kind of find out that she's sort of a chimp supremacist.
Yeah, I mean, that's basically it, is she's just like, "Well, now what are we going to do?" And he says, "Let me bring my 2 servants in. They'll help this guy rebuild his thing real quick because they're good at this kind of stuff. And why don't you and I retire to the bed chambers and chat it up?" And she like hands over her manifesto to him, and he's reading it, and it's just it's just like orangutans are inferior, gorillas are inferior, chimpanzees are supreme.
I actually think this is an interesting idea. Maybe not again fully realized, but they always seem to wait maybe a little too long to introduce these ideas, because this is already like the 3rd act in this episode. Well, not quite, but it's like, I don't know. I always feel like maybe you could have just done this. I mean, I don't even know if I agree with myself. It just felt like it kind of happened kind of quick. Maybe looking back,
there was a little. I think in this particular, I'll defend this one a little bit, just because there was some teasing of it, like the intellectual flirting earlier, and then like midway through, they were talking about how great it was to have a stimulating conversation because gorillas, they can't talk, which has been a thing we've heard before. Mm-hmm. In fact, and this is something you've been wanting. You've been wanting to know the difference between these sort of ape species or subsets.
Yeah.
And there more and more clearly
there are
divisions.
No, it's definitely an interesting idea and one that they should push into more. And I do like the idea that something that this show has done really well is shown that there's not a unifying thought behind all
everyone
these apes.
Doesn't believe it the same thing.
Yeah, and there's different political faction and different ideas and beliefs, and I think they've done a good job with that. And now we're seeing a version of the negatives that can happen in society when you have someone that's gone too far to the extreme.
And it kind of also reveals her big plan, why she's so interested in a flying machine, is she has a box that's labeled Fragmentation Cosmoline Pack.
They're bombs.
She's got some fragmentation bombs.
You know what she could have used? If she just had teamed up with old a Mask Face in the last episode, she could have dropped those pottery
gas bombs,
those gas clay bombs.
I did notice in these 2 episodes there were 2 different villains with like bombs that were.
I have a feeling it was probably something in society that was happening at that time that was making that the thing to go to.
Right, some sort of terrorism, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. But, that old chestnut.
But the essentially idea is she is going to run a coup on the High Council. She wants this glider. She's going to fly over the council, blow that up. She's going to blow up Urko's chambers, and she's going to blow up all his kind of like close allies in the military. She basically is planning a coup of the entire ape government.
Yeah, because she's like, Zaius is orangutan, done. Urko, gorilla, done. All those people's like, no, chimps are on top, and that's what it's going to be.
I was shocked to find there was a coup plot in the middle of this episode. We cut back, and Verdun and Burke have shown up to help rebuild this glider, and they're bringing the glider they basically built in.
Yeah.
And I love it because Lurk's not stupid. They show up, and he's immediately like, Galen burnt down my glider on purpose. And Burke just turns to him and says, you want an engraved apology? It would have broken your stupid neck if you flew that stupid machine.
I know.
It was so mean.
I don't know if it's even in character why they're
very antagonistic with this guy.
Very antagonistic.
I guess maybe they're trying. I think maybe it's just like maybe the inventor didn't push it far. I think he's supposed to be kind of arrogant and a little pushy, but they're like way more back, so it never quite like evens out. It was very funny. I loved how much they hated this man.
Yeah, it's just like for whatever reason he really annoyed them.
But with the information of this coup out, basically Galen, Verdun, and Burke are like, all right, forget all of this. Trash the glider. We're getting out of here. Like, we can't help this coup. And they sort of attempt to do it, but there's like kind of a fight and kerfuffle. Verdun and Burke get away. Lurk gets shot in the hand, and Galen gets captured. And it kind of ends this sort of like attempted escape, attempted sabotage with nothing broken really. But Lurk's in prison. His hand's too hurt. He can't fly. Galen's in prison. And we get a quick shot of Verdun's somehow built a slingshot.
This could have been like his weapon throughout the series. But yeah, he just has a slingshot, and that's how he delivers a message to them in their little cage. He just shoots a piece of paper.
Well, it's great too because they want to keep us in suspense. So Galen like reads the piece of paper quickly and then eats it and doesn't say anything. And I'm like, wait, what's the plan?
Yeah.
But essentially what happens is there's a little argument between old Carcia, the female ape scientist, and the guard who runs the place. He's just like, listen, your whole experiment's gone too far. Like, people are escaping, people are trying to destroy this thing. Let's just kill these people. She's like, listen, let me run my test tomorrow, and afterward, kill them. Or they'll die when they fly. Either way, I don't really care.
Yeah.
So they end up out on this cliffside. Galen's there. Lurk's there. Lurk's like, I can't fly this glider. My hand's broken. Galen puts on a whole act about, well, don't look at me. I'm afraid to fly. Mm-hmm. I would never do it. And Cersei's like, Carcius.
Whatever.
She's just like, well, I've got a great idea. Why don't you fly it then? And you can take him with you. And if you both die, 2 birds with one stone.
And I thought that was weird because they didn't even know if it would fly with one person. And like, you're going to add the weight of 2 people? Like, I get kind of why they did it. I was like, that seems an odd
It was an odd choice. I will say though, at least the guerrilla commander has come out and he's like positioned his like sharpshooters all along the cliffside.
Yeah.
He's like, if you fly out of this area, I'm going to kill you. So you're not, because I was just like, they're obviously going to escape, but at least there was like some sort of plan to stop them.
But this had sort of almost like a cartoon moment here where, so they get in the glider, they glide, everything's going well. Not too long, they sort of crash into the water, right? And I like that. What's her name? Female ape. It's just like, well, they're dead. I guess we don't need to look, and they just walk away.
Well, that's it. This is supposed to be the big flight. It actually works. There's some great shots of them flying. Galen's yelling woohoo. It's clearly working. And whatever the plan they came up with was, we don't really learn, but what we kind of see is that Burke and Verdun like throw a rock at an ape's head, and he does a hilarious pratfall, and then they disappear. And the plan is basically they get over the open ocean and they basically crash land into the water. And yeah, Carcius, who's been trying to capture the secret of flight, she just looks down and she's like, secret of flight's lost forever. Let's just go home.
Yeah, she actually says, she goes, they're both dead. She goes, and the secret of flight. It's like, what? That's it? That you don't try?
You haven't looked for them. You could recreate that now. It's like Wendy, Wanda in the brainwashing.
That's right.
You're like at the finish line and you give up.
Yeah.
And that was crazy too, is because they crash there. They're like, well, I guess they're dead. And as they're walking away, Verdun and Brooke paddle out with a little raft, put Galen on it, get Lurik, and they just like paddle away into the ocean in plain view.
I know, in plain view. But what I like is then the show essentially ends on them laughing at Galen because Galen is seasick.
Yeah, I know.
And then you get a long shot of them sailing away, and they go, "That's the series, everyone.
Goodbye."
Yeah, and that's it. They sail off into the sunset.
I mean, obviously not their planned ending,
No.
but very odd. I mean, I didn't hate the episode, but like for an ending, like what a low ending.
Yeah.
That's it. That wraps up the series. I don't know what you have. I got a few final things I want to get into here, Jordan,
Go for it.
But first, I did want to note, and this actually was in the trivia on the final episode of IMDb. The show was intended originally to air on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a CBS executive who hated it. He just wanted to bury it. So he programmed it in the Friday night death slot.
Right.
So that was sort of his plan, just to like rid himself of it.
Yeah.
But it actually ended up being like still fairly viewed, but mostly by children, which was just not what the advertisers wanted from the show. So that I actually seemed to be what this like little write-up was saying was kind of its death knell, was like put in a bad slot, but also attracted just the wrong audience to it.
Right.
Probably because it just wasn't working. It was, you know what it was up against? You know what? That was the Friday night death slot.
What year again was this?
It'd be 74.
74. Give me a hint. I want to guess.
It'd be two sitcoms, I believe.
Okay. I'm gonna guess 74. I'm gonna guess All in the Family and MASH.
No, I mean you're sort of.
Oh, okay. Hold on. It was Happy Days and.
You're further.
Oh, I'm further. Okay, what is it?
It was Sanford and Son, and I actually don't know if this is a sitcom, but maybe you can tell me. Chico and the Man.
Okay, I wouldn't have guessed Chico and the Man.
I don't know what Chico and the Man is, so I just.
It's like an old cop show, I think.
Oh. I envisioned like an old man and his young cousin, his young nephew or something.
Yeah. It's American sitcom.
Oh.
4 seasons, 74 to 78.
There you go. So that kind of is what finished it off. And in my sort of research over actually the course of this series, I'd come across this one website that has like a great amalgamation of everything about this show. Like they've got scripts, they've got images from all the old comics and all the old records and everything. In fact, I actually watched all the old Galen clips on there where he's old. Oh man, it's not those bookends are not very good.
Not good, huh?
They're not great. It's very funny. He's like clearly in the far future because he's a computer. And the best part of it though is like, I don't know how they're broken up, but he's always describing what you just saw. So if you've watched the episode, you kind of know where they are in this series when you're watching it. But he's kind of like talking like, "Can you believe this? Can you believe they went to a farm?" And like it all culminates. The entire like what has been 4 movies ends with he's been like building something, and it finally pulls out to reveal he's been building a little toy, a little organ grinder and like monkey that's clapping cymbals is what he's been building the whole time. But the big twist is the organ grinder is a monkey, and the monkey is a little man with cymbals. What a twist!
That was what he was building?
Yeah,
I thought you were gonna say what do you end up finding is that he's been building a spaceship and he's like gonna go back.
No, it's just a little toy. It's just a little toy he's been building.
Sounds pretty stupid.
It also ends with just like what? Because they mentioned they're like, and then they went home. Like it just ends with like, and then they got home later somehow. Don't worry about it. And he's like, but I didn't go with them because I know what you guys do. You lock me in cages. But if you guys ever come here, I'm going to lock you in a cage. Like it ends on such a threatening note.
Weird.
Anyway, that's not what I was actually getting into. There's a lot of great stuff on this little website. But the thing I really liked was someone had done a very well drawn and like thoroughly researched final episode comic book for the series. And I read it and you know what? It doesn't all work, but they've tried really hard to basically get the continuity of the show, the movies, and all the spin-off comic book and book material
Really?
all together. So they're working very hard tied together.
Now, do you think it was Ape Freak who did all that?
I don't know. I've got the name of the guy who wrote it though, because it was so good. Mike McColm. I believe he's from Scotland or something.
I think we now know the real name of Ape Freak.
I mean, I think this man would have put a little more. Ape Freak did a good job, but this guy would have
right.
been much more careful.
Right.
You want to hear what happens in the final?
Yeah, of course I do.
The
The
theorized
non-canonical
final episode takes place 11 years after the crash.
Okay.
They've given up trying to get home.
Well, as you would after 11 years.
They've started a farm.
Sure. Yeah. Well, he's got farm background.
Zeus is dead.
Yeah. Sad.
Urko has taken over everything.
I love it.
He's a general. He's running everything.
Yeah. Great. I love it.
This neighbor ape comes to visit them, and he's just been to the city, and he's just like, "Oof, it's tough times in the city." And they're like, "Why? What's going on?" He's like, "They got these human concentration camps they've started."
Oh, jeez. This got dark real fast.
Very dark. And Verdun is like, he can't take it anymore. He loses it. He's like, he can't stand that he's here and stuck here, and Urko's killing humans. And this neighbor tells him this other rumor. He's like, yeah, the wild people in the Forbidden Zone have been running out of there for some reason because there were flashing lights over there this last night. So he's like, I gotta go see if there's something useful for me in there. So they all sort of get back on the road, head to the Forbidden City. What they find there is those mutant people who worship the atomic bomb, apparently from one of the movies. So they bump into them. They've captured a spaceship from the future. A woman has come back from the future to rescue them. Apparently they met her in one of the comic book spinoffs. There's like a note saying.
Of course, yeah.
Anyway, so she's come back. She's broken the law. The past has given up on the people who've been lost, and she's come back to save them because I guess she met them. I don't know, whatever. So they're breaking her out to get to their spaceship. Urko comes in with an army. Basically, he wants to come in and like he's heard the rumors too. So the mutants fight the gorillas. They're running to the spaceship at the end. Urko gets a hold of Galen and is like choking him to death. And Burke jumps in to try to save him, and Burke is shot and killed before they get away. The mutant leader shoots Urko with a machine gun.
Kills him.
So only Verdun gets away. And Galen stays on the planet of the Apes. And it cuts back to, I guess, the past where Verdun's from. And Verdun goes and visits a memorial with his name on it and all the other people who've been lost to the planet of the Apes. And he weeps in front of it.
That's not bad, actually.
I'm not doing it justice. It's actually kind of a fun little read.
Yeah, you have to send it to me and I can take a look at it.
I was surprised, but I'm like, people have really cared about this. And like, the drawings are great. He put a lot of thought into how to tie all these things together, wrote a pretty like contained little story and like tried to tie it all up. And like when Burke died at the end, I was like taken off. I was like, Burke's dead? That can't be.
That smart mouth of his got him in one too many pickles he couldn't get out of.
Also, Urko's son makes an appearance.
Oh, nice. The one from that story?
It could be.
So what do you think overall about this show? I mean, here's the thing. We got through the whole show, 14 episodes. Was it 14? 13 episodes? 14 episodes? Something like that. We watched a lot of episodes. It never quite hit some of the peaks we've had in some of these shows, but it never also hit the lows. It sort of had that meaty sort of like, that's okay kind of area. And my personal feeling was good actors, good premise, pretty good costumes and effects and stuff for the time period. I think it was a little bit of missed potential because they were handcuffed a little bit by the writing. And I don't exactly know why, because they had this whole world to play with and it feels like they added these constraints upon themselves, and I don't know what the reason was.
I think looking at that show Bible, when it was meant to be a little more adult, where you'd have a Patty Hearst episode, whereas what was finally produced, like probably skewed closer to family. I think that ultimately is probably the constraint that got put on it. Probably somewhere in the getting close to production, which kind of hamstrings it. Like, they want to deal with some of these things. They clearly have writers who are capable of it and are trying to, even within the constraints.
Well, that's what I mean, because what becomes clear now, and I think we mentioned in these last couple episodes, is that they kind of get into the beliefs and politics of this world, but almost more in the first half of the season. And the second half of the season, it's like in the third act, you'll get this kind of interesting idea, like that there's different, possibly racism within the apes and all these sort of interesting ideas. It almost seems like they're scared to get too much into, so they're just like, throw it in the end, in little thing. I'm like, no, that's the interesting part of this episode, not the building a kite. Who cares about that, you know?
Yeah, I think they were just stuck in that adventure. They had to be an adventure show when I think they wanted to be something else.
Yeah.
But they still had to provide an adventure show to the network.
But not a bad show at all. And an easy show to watch. a lot of fun ideas, a lot of kind of fun little moments. As I said, Urko becomes a great character.
Oh,
by
absolutely.
the end.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite characters, I think, in any of the shows we've seen.
Well, do you want to rate these 2 episodes?
Yeah.
What would you give the first one, The Liberator?
I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It was really close to being a lot better. I had wanted them to focus on what I thought was interesting, which was kind of the mystery of how the guy died with the gods. And I just feel like they had that interesting idea and then had to kind of put it through this weird sausage grinder to make it like all the other episodes.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it didn't quite work. I love that kid, Miro. It may be a little over the top and he's a little too much, but I enjoyed watching him. That single tear, I was like, I'm like, man, oh man, going for it. I'm going to go 6.5. It just never quite worked exactly. And what about Up Above the World So High?
Weirdly, I actually think I liked the other episode more, but I'm going to give this one a 7 out of 10 because I think I'm going to give them credit for creating, and I like the idea of the potential future storylines of having descent among the ranks of the apes. And I think there's an interesting idea, not fully realized in this episode, but sets up some potential. So because of that, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
Pretty good. I liked that whole thing with the potential coup. I actually didn't mind the whole thing with the guy inventing a flying machine. I thought that was kind of interesting. And while Burke and Verdun were maybe a little hard on him, I did at least like there was some sort of weird conflict that was like just like a personality.
Right.
I think I'd also give it a 7. I think that's about right up the right spot for it.
So what are we looking at? Hold on. Let me just blowing the dust off this old machine. It's been a little while. Let's push some buttons and check where we're at.
The computer is an old Nintendo. You have to blow in the cartridge.
Yeah, hold on. I'm blowing that cartridge. There's it actually looks a lot like the machine we saw in an earlier episode of this show, where there's just 4 buttons, and you just push one of the 4 buttons, and it just pulls up our scores and sends it out one of those old printers with the dot matrix.
Yeah, we got to wait for the printer to roll out.
Yeah.
All right, Jordan, you want to know what the final score is for series average for Planet of the Apes?
Yeah. Can I guess what it is?
Yeah.
6.2.
6.38.
Wow, that's pretty close.
Yeah, not too bad. I think if someone were to ask me about the show, I mean, I'll say it right now. I would probably recommend watching the show. If this is a podcast you're listening to and you like this kind of thing, I maybe wouldn't watch it like back to back to back. But I think if you put on a few episodes, I think you'd kind of have a good time.
I agree. I think if we had watched this as an audience member at the time, not like we do, we sort of watch it, and sometimes it's a lot in one week, to watch 2 50-minute episodes in a week, and you can be like, okay, this is a little bit a lot. But if it's a casual sort of show, again, I would recommend it too. If you like this sort of thing, this sort of fun adventure kind of
something set in the 70s, got those sort of production values.
This is by far the best of what we've seen.
There's a lot to be surprised by. Like was constantly blown away by some of the mask acting people could get away with in this show. Some of the writing was really good. Some episodes are definitely better than others, and maybe you could pick some of the better ones to watch. But if you're just like, I want someone to watch while I eat my craft dinner tonight, sure, put it on.
Oh, you set those expectations real low.
Yeah, that's what this is what I imagine.
No, but I think you're right, and I think some really good performances, some good ideas, and pretty good production value.
Absolutely.
Just don't watch all the Coast episodes in a row, sort of thing. But yeah, it's a pretty good little show. I think our rating is pretty close to what it is. It might be more of a 7 out of 10, but
I think it is. It's the average. It's what we felt about each episode. I think if you were asking about the series, I'd be like, I might have bumped it up. If I had just thought about the series, I probably would have said a 7. But I think in reality, as a whole, it is probably correct. I don't think we're too far off from it.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's it for Planet of the Apes, Jordan. I'm gonna miss it.
Yeah, I feel a nice sense of completion, but I think we'll be talking about this show, knowing people with our comments about this show in future episodes. Do we know what we're going to do next week? Are we going to keep it as a secret, or?
I don't remember. We're going to do a TV movie. I just don't remember what it's called.
Okay, so it'll be a secret. That's what we'll say.
It's a big surprise to us even.
Yeah.
And well, I guess until then, thanks for joining us for our journey to the Planet of the Apes. You can still get a hold of us at continuumdrag@gmail.com if you have any thoughts on the show or anything you think we missed or any information about its cancellation that maybe is interesting to know. And of course, on Instagram and Twitter at Continuum Drag, we'll have little quick clips of the show and probably some photos, and who knows what else will end up on there. Right, Jordan?
Mm-hmm.
Just staring at me blankly.
Just staring at you blankly. Sorry.
But yeah. So, listener, thanks for joining us. Jordan, good doing it with you.
Mm-hmm.
And Ape Freak, good night, you sweet prince.
Nice.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Toronto, Ontario. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Delic and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Yunes, Adam Wheatner, Jeff Hanley, Jane McRae, and Stephen Packard.